Hi and welcome back to Cheeky Crypto. Today guys, we're going to be taking another look at ANKR and specifically the price action after a pullback that we've seen yesterday. What could be on the horizon next and what should we be preparing ourselves for? Guys, as we get into this video, if you find it useful and informative, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you are new, then do subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so you will be kept up to date with absolutely everything that we do here. Right, with all that nonsense out of the way, let's dive into some technical analysis and talk about what's been going on most recently here with ANKR. Now, this is a brief TA video. I'm not going to talk about the weekly and the daily all that much. We are going to really focus in on what's going on in the here and now with the smaller timeframes and why there's some interesting things occurring right now for ANKR. So previously, before we kind of had the pullback, we had the breakout event of our triangular wedge. We were tracking this. It was doing really well. We found this upper bound of resistance just up here. And this is where we started to see then this kind of pullback, right? There was a pullback that was natural, and then there was the Bitcoin pullback, right? Took us all a bit by surprise. But again, you know, there was campaigns running about $30 worth of Bitcoin to be purchased on the 7th, and how everyone was going to kind of, you know, push the price of Bitcoin up. But that sounds all too familiar because that's something that XRP community experienced back in February. And again, you had nothing but a dump going on here. Now we have checked the analytics across both the 𝗲 platform, the Glassnode platform, etc. Really digging into why Bitcoin had this pullback. There was nothing from like institutions pushing large volumes of Bitcoin onto the exchanges. The inflows were just not there. And again, there's nothing unusual about the inflows. So this would have been planned and potentially kind of something that was executed over a period of time, right? Accumulating and leaving on an exchange. So there was no inflow indications actually out there. So as a result, you then started to see these actors, bad actors in the space, drop their Bitcoin on the market and start to tank the price. Obviously, it didn't last very long. It did bounce, and it bounced to an interesting area. Obviously, the entire market did also come back down with Bitcoin, and ANKR was no exception to it. So coming right down, invalidating our downward trend and our upward trend that intersected. And this is exactly where we saw the bounce here for ANKR. So we're going to really focus in on what's going on here, right? Okay. So we can see that there was a good push to the downside, right? So this, first of all, let's start with what percentage gains were lost. So we actually lost a total of 34%, pretty much in line with many of these other altcoins that we'd seen in the space, and then nothing unusual. This is a pretty standard kind of correction in the space. We see it quite a bit, and I'm going to show you that on the daily once we get past this hourly view. So we had a pullback. We also bounced to the upside, and we found this resistance line just here, and this is our downward trend resistance. So we're now back inside our downward trend, okay, and that's holding up. But we also got rejected from that area and we fell back down. Now this is an interesting rejection point because when we grab our Fibonacci retracement tool and we actually put this on from our candle high just here and our candle low, we actually see that this is the 702. Okay, this is a very common area that we see rejection from, and it was intersecting with our downward trend line. So there's always three areas that we bounce to, generally speaking: 618, 702, 786, and a rejection is usually coming in at the 702, failing to get above the 786. So this is usually where you put a stop loss and all that kind of good stuff. And anyway, what we saw was a rejection from here and then consolidation sideways trading across the 50% retracement area of this Fibonacci retracement tool. From there, we were rejected mainly because this is also an interesting area at 10 cents of a resistance line, previously support. So this is now a rejection point for us, and we saw that rejection coming in, right? Rejected from the 618 after being rejected from the 702, in line with our resistance line at 10 cents. So the rejection from here then saw us come back down, actually coming down a little bit lower than our 9 cent support line, and basically in line with our 236 area of the Fibonacci retracement tool. Now, this actually comes in at 8.9 cents, just south of where our support line is at 9 cents. We actually wicked down a little bit lower towards our next support line, which came in at 8.6. Now that actually didn't go as low as that, and it did hold, and we bounced right back to the upside here. And again, this is oversold going up into overbought. So right now, ANKR is overbought. Okay, so we are up against resistance with an overbought token, finding the resistance not only just at the 10 cent resistance line, but wicking up to the 618 as well. This means that we are likely to see a pullback happen in the next few hours for ANKR. Okay, so again, this is a small time thing, right? This is a small hourly chart that we can see this on. The daily is looking very, very strong, and the weekly is also looking very strong for a good bullish movement to the upside. So it's only a small time frame, the hourly, that is showing this kind of pullback that's looking like it's going to happen. Now, the other thing that we have to acknowledge here with ANKR is what kind of level of pullback are we expecting? And we are actually looking at tracking for a new lower high, or a higher low, I should say. So we have this lower area here, and then we had this one, right? So this is a lower or higher low than we've had previously, right? So this one is higher than this low. So what we're looking for now on the next pullback is to basically come to a point, preferably around this area of stability, where we are higher than this area here. So if we grab our trend line and we actually draw a trend line on here and we look for a pullback, well, we are looking for a pullback that actually happens next to this trend line. So we'll look for a pullback to happen, and we might just wick down a little bit lower than our 382 area, and this area would then hopefully turn into a good bouncing zone. This then indicates that we are bouncing from an upward trend line, and we are not looking to set these lower higher lows, right? So overall what we're looking for is to basically stay above this area and stay above this area, and in doing so that's a very bullish outlook for a long-term position and the continued growth of this fifth wave to the upside. Again, everything is looking incredibly bullish on our daily views and our weekly views. Only the hourly view, which has obviously had this pullback and this little bit of turbulence in the space, that we're starting to see actually a bit of rejection from some of these key areas. So although we are up against this area here of resistance, 10 cent, and of course 10.1 cent, which is the 618 area of our Fibonacci retracement tool, these things coming in line together and basically indicating that a pullback is likely to happen. Now we'll look for a bounce from here, good push to the upside, and hopefully we'll be out of the trouble here in no time at all, and we'll be back on track. Again, nothing moves in straight lines. We do see corrections, although this one is definitely artificial in design. With that being said, though, we can actually go ahead and remove our Fibonacci retracement tool, and I'll leave this upward trend line for now, but we will go back up into our daily view. So for Anchor here, we have obviously seen this quite significant pullback, right? I can grab hold of my my retracement tool. We'll just pull that down, and we can see it was a total of 34%. But is that unusual in this space? Well, actually, a 34% pullback is something that we are relatively comfortable with seeing in the space, and we do see it quite often. And we can take a look at several points during our third wave to the upside, and we can find that actually there are some interesting points as well. Here was a point of 42% correction, right? This one day, we had a 42% correction before pushing back up again. Okay, so they can happen quite a bit, and the 34% is not unusual. This was actually happening right here in the middle of our third wave to the upside, right? Did we notice it? Yes, we noticed it. And in the case of actually looking at a 2-day period, we actually went down a total of 54% in 2 days, okay, before we actually then went up significantly and continued to rally to the upside. So again, it's not unusual to see these kind of things happen in the space, and in the case of Anchor here, it is unfortunate that Bitcoin's manipulation and pullback has pulled the rest of the market down. But with that being said, guys, this is still looking very good. When we take a look at the structure of overall, we can see that we've had a nice correction on our daily stochastic RSI, meaning that we're going to see a nice good push to the upside in the coming days and weeks that will hopefully take us above our 786 of this main Fibonacci retracement tool from the high of wave 3 and the low of wave 4. That will be signaling on the price discovery. For Anchor, we are talking about pushing the price up to 77 cent, which is about 600 and let me actually just move this to the current position here. That's 664% from the current position. So it's still pretty lucrative. When we actually jump up into our weekly, we get the main structure of what is going on, and everything still here looks like it is working according to plan. With Anchor, like we have with the third wave here, we were trading sideways. This is where we start to see these kind of pullbacks happen. Can be frustrating in the space before we get this kind of move at the end. This is looking very eerily like what was happening down here after our second wave correction, and our way out of this second wave correction was a good push to the upside, sideways trading, then parabolic move at the end. We see here good push to the outside, up out of the fourth wave correction, sideways trading, and then we look for that parabolic move at the end. The structure is the same, and we are still long-term bullish on this one for the rest of the bull run. So far, we have seen from March to, I think it was it April? No, so March to March, actually, we've seen 34,000% so far. And again, there's another 664% gains still to be had. So again, everything on Anchor is looking pretty well positioned for the long-term hodl, and of course looking for some interesting price discovery towards the end of the year. That being said, the hourly does look like it's quite volatile and does need a pullback. So depending on how nervous you are, act accordingly. I'm not a financial advisor, but what I see in the data here is a pretty good long-term project with good potential for the upside in the near future. Small pullback in the next couple of hours to the next few maybe days, sideways trading continuously for a little bit longer before we get that parabolic run towards the end of the bull run. Overall, I think ANKR is a fantastic project doing a lot for the space, so do more research on it if you don't fully understand what they deliver and what their use case is. With all this said, done and out of the way, if you have found it useful, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you are new, make sure you subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with absolutely everything that we do here. And right, with all that said, done and out of the way, I hope everyone has a fantastic day, and I'll catch you in the next one.